What's the most inappropriate thing a school administrator ever said? My 11-year-old son came home from school with a black eye for the third time that month, but the vice principal told me he needed to toughen up instead of moving his attackers to different classes. Your son needs to man up, Puller said while leaning back in his office chair. He folded his hands over his stomach and gave me this smug little smile. We don't rearrange entire class schedules because of boyhood scuffles. I tried explaining that 3 boys were targeting my son every single day, but he just shook his head. Stop helicopter parenting and let boys be boys. He actually used air quotes when he said helicopter parenting. The next Monday, my son Ryan came home with bruised ribs and could barely breathe right. I took photos and emailed them to Puller, but he never wrote back. Tuesday was worse because the boys stole his inhaler during gym class and he had an asthma attack. The gym teacher, Mr. Douglas, pulled me aside when I picked Ryan up and told me quietly that he'd tried to file a report about what happened, but Puller wouldn't take it. He told me these things work themselves out, Douglas said while looking around nervously. Wednesday, I kept Ryan home and called to set up another meeting. Puller's secretary said he was booked for 2 weeks. I drove to school anyway and sat in the office until he'd see me. This is harassment, Puller said when he finally came out. I showed him the photos of Ryan's bruises and the paper from our doctor about the inhaler incident. He barely looked at them before sliding them back across his desk. Boys need to experience conflict to become men. That's what he actually told me while my son had bruised ribs. Thursday, I sent Ryan to school because I had to work and couldn't afford more missed days. My phone rang at 10 a.m. and it was the school nurse, Mrs. Franklin. She was whispering and sounded scared. Your son is hurt bad, but Mr. Puller told me not to call you. She said Ryan's head had been slammed into a bathroom sink and he was dizzy and throwing up. He needs a hospital now, she said before hanging up fast. I drove to school as fast as I could and found Ryan sitting in the nurse's office with blood on his shirt and his eyes all unfocused. Puller was there telling him to stop being dramatic. He's fine, Puller said when he saw me. Just needs to walk it off. I picked up my son, who could barely stand, and carried him past Puller, who was still saying this was unnecessary. Other parents in the office were staring with their mouths open. One mom started recording on her phone when Puller followed us out saying I was setting a bad example. The secretary was on the phone and I heard her say, "Yes, Mr. Puller told the nurse not to call an ambulance." The ER doctor stopped writing on his clipboard and looked up at me when I explained why it took so long to get Ryan help. He ordered a CT scan right away, and when the results came back, he called me over to look at them. He pointed to areas on the scan showing a bad concussion, but then he frowned and pointed to another spot that showed signs of an older head injury that never got treated. While we were waiting for more tests, the hospital social worker came in with a notebook, and Ryan started telling her about all the attacks from the past few months that Puller had ignored. She was writing fast and kept shaking her head, and when Ryan finished, she looked at me and asked if I wanted to file a report with CPS, and I told her absolutely. The brain doctor pulled me aside the next morning and showed me Ryan's brain scans. There was swelling that could have caused permanent damage if we'd waited any longer. She said the old injury showed signs of healing wrong because it was never treated. Your son could have died, she said quietly while looking at the scans. I walked back into that school the following Monday with the CPS investigator, Ms. Torres. Puller's face went white when he saw us, and he started backing toward his office door. "This is a misunderstanding," he started saying, but Torres cut him off and pulled out a folder thick with papers. She told him she'd talked to 19 other parents over the weekend, and every single one had complaints about the same 5 boys who Puller had protected all year. The principal, Mrs. Walker, got called in, and she kept fidgeting with her necklace and looking at the floor while she told Torres that yes, she knew Puller was refusing to write up violent incidents. He said it would hurt our 0 violence rating, she said in this tiny voice while still staring at her shoes. Parents started showing up after getting Torres's calls, and soon the office was packed with moms and dads all talking at once and waving their own medical bills and photos. Puller kept backing further into the corner, saying he was protecting the school's reputation, but one dad stepped right up to him and yelled, "What about protecting our kids?" Puller got arrested 2 weeks later for child endangerment, and Walker quit before the school board could fire her. The district put in new rules and made incident reporting mandatory. We got a settlement check from the district's insurance, and Ryan is doing great at his new school.